Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at Phuket, Thailand. You know, that high-end tropical hotspot.
Right.
But we're skipping the usual tourist trail. We want to understand the massive, rapid shifts happening there because of its fastest-growing expat community,
Hmm.
the Russians.
Mhm.
What's life really like for them?
Yeah, and this is crucial because, well, this community has fundamentally reshaped Phuket in just a few years. The property market, the local culture, it's all changing.
It really is.
And our insights today, they come straight from a key player, Ocean Worldwide. They're a luxury real estate agency right there on the ground.
And that's so important. Ocean Worldwide, they've been based in Phuket since 2004. Think about that context. Decades.
Exactly.
Their director, Sandra O'Neill, she's personally helped, literally thousands of families and investors find their feet there over the years.
So we're getting the perspective from the folks actually handling the deals, signing the leases. They see it all.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack that reality for Russian residents. It's complex.
Definitely. It's this blend of, community comfort, huge economic influence, but also these very real daily challenges. Integrating isn't easy.
And the core idea, the tension that Ocean Worldwide points out, is that the Russian experience there is really a mixed bag. That's
Yeah.
the term they use.
Yeah, it's split. You've got people who are maybe just getting by, possibly waiting for a chance to go back home. And then you have the really wealthy ones who've decided Phuket is their permanent base. Millionaire investors living near remote workers may be struggling a bit with rising costs. It's quite the contrast.
Okay, let's dig into that journey, starting with that initial shock when they first arrive.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first wall they hit, according to Ocean Worldwide?
Well, the initial shock is pretty overwhelming. The source calls it the first wall, and it's basically the language barrier.
Right, Thai.
Thai is incredibly difficult for Russian speakers, and honestly, even finding good English services outside the main tourist hubs can be tough.
So simple things become hard.
Oh yeah. Daily tasks like going to the doctor, setting up utilities, dealing with any kind of official paperwork suddenly become really challenging.
Wow, that sounds isolating. So how do they cope initially?
Well, that's where the community structure immediately kicks in. It provides this essential relief. You see this rapid appearance of parallel support systems. Lots of shops, restaurants, services now have Russian signs, Russian menus.
And staff, too.
Crucially, yes, Russian-speaking staff in clinics, real estate offices, you name it. It means they can get essential things done in their own language.
I heard they rely heavily on online networks, too.
Oh, absolutely. Those online groups, especially on Telegram and WhatsApp, they're the lifeblood. Seriously.
What do they use them for?
Everything. Getting leads on a good dentist, figuring out visas, or even just finding familiar groceries.
Groceries, like specific Russian items.
Exactly. Tracking down things like buckwheat or trog, that farmer's cheese. Little comforts that make a huge difference when you're far from home. It turns a potentially stressful day into something manageable.
And all this support, this infrastructure, it leads to them clustering geographically, right?
It does, naturally. They tend to settle in particular areas. You see big communities in Rawai down south, Bantao on the west coast, and up north near Mai Khao, too.
And the services follow.
The services follow the people, absolutely. You find Russian international schools, Russian delis, yoga classes taught in Russian, even whole apartment buildings primarily filled with Russian expats.
Wow.
It's like a mini society has sprung up very quickly.
Okay, but what happens when they step outside that, Russian-speaking bubble? How do they interact with locals or even long-term Western expats?
That's where it gets more, let's say, hit or miss. It really depends on the individual's effort.
Effort in what way?
Effort to connect. The source notes English often becomes the sort of neutral ground. It's the bridge between Russians, Westerners, and Thais working in tourism.
But for something deeper.
For a real connection, yeah, patience is key. And being willing to learn at least a few basic Thai phrases makes a world of difference. You can't just expect everyone to meet you halfway, linguistically.
Okay, so the language barrier is the first shock. But maybe the second, and perhaps bigger surprise, is the financial reality.
Mm-hmm. The cost.
Yeah. They've built this community bubble, but it isn't necessarily cheap to live in, is it? Let's talk about the money side. Their economic impact.
It's huge. There's no denying it. Right now, they are the economic engine, especially in property. Over the last couple of years, Russian buyers have become some of the absolute top foreign investors on the island.
Driving the boom.
Driving a major boom, particularly in new luxury stuff, high-end villas, modern condos.
And if we look at the numbers, The data from Ocean Worldwide.
Yeah.
What kind of money are we talking?
Serious money. I mean, a standard one-bedroom condo, say, in a decent city spot, might go for 4 to 7 million Thai baht. That's roughly, what, 110,000 to 190,000 USD?
Okay, and the high end? The
No.
villas.
That's where it gets really significant. A 3-bedroom villa near the beach. Prices can range from 18 million THB all the way up to, well, 80 million THB.
80 million baht, wow. That's over $2.2 million USD at current rate.
Exactly. Big investments.
Well, wait, if they're pouring, potentially millions into a villa, how does that work legally? Isn't foreign land ownership restricted in Thailand?
Ah, yes. That's the major hurdle. And where expert advice becomes critical, foreigners generally can't own land outright.
So what do they do?
They have to get creative. Many stick to condos, as foreign freehold ownership is allowed for condo units up to a certain percentage of the building.
Okay.
But for houses, for villas on land, it's usually structured differently. Either through long-term leases, you often hear about the 30 plus 30 plus 30-year structure, or by setting up a Thai company.
A company that owns the land.
Right, but that company typically needs a Thai majority shareholder. It adds layers of complexity, cost, and requires ongoing legal management.
Which is precisely why agencies like Ocean Worldwide, who understand these local rules inside out, are so essential for these investors. You need someone guiding you through that maze.
Absolutely critical. You don't want to get that wrong when you're investing millions.
Okay, now here's the irony. Huge money flowing in from some, but many others, maybe those working remotely on fixed salaries, they get hit with a surprise, right?
Yeah.
This rising cost dilemma.
Yes, that's a huge factor. Many arrived expecting, that classic low-cost Southeast Asian lifestyle. But reality check. Prices for pretty much everything, housing, food, utilities, they've really crept up, as the source says, quite aggressively since around 2022.
And what are the real-world effects of that cost creep?
Well, the insight here is kind of fascinating. The very wealth driving the boom is making it harder for the middle-class segment of the same Russian community to afford life there.
So what happens?
We see families having to downsize, maybe moving from a villa to an apartment or moving away from the prime, expensive beach areas like Bang Tao to somewhere more affordable.
And what about those who came on tighter budgets, maybe hoping to just ride things out for a while?
For them, it's getting tough. The cost of living is now high enough that some are seriously considering relocating. Maybe to quieter, cheaper parts of Thailand, or even leaving Thailand altogether for other spots in Southeast Asia that haven't seen such a price surge.
So the sticker shock is real, and it's actually pushing some people out.
Definitely, even if they cleared that first language hurdle.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to daily life. Culture, family, that kind of thing. It sounds like there's a constant balancing act when it comes to integration.
There really is. On one side, you see efforts to engage with Thai culture.
Like what?
Participating in big festivals like Loi Krathong, floating the lanterns, or Songkran, the water festival, trying local street food, learning basic etiquette for visiting temples, things like that.
But they also hold on to their own traditions very strongly.
Oh, intensely. They balance that outward engagement with maintaining deep Russian roots. Family gatherings are huge, centering around traditional foods, borscht, pelmeni. They celebrate Orthodox Christmas, New Year's with real energy.
Keeping that identity alive is important when you're far from home.
Especially with uncertainty back home, it's crucial.
And for families settling long-term, education becomes a massive priority, right? And a major cost.
Probably the biggest expense after housing, yeah. International schools are very popular.
Why those specifically?
Well, they offer instruction in English, which is globally useful, and some even have Russian language programs. But the tuition, it's steep.
How steep are we talking?
For the major international schools, you're looking at averages anywhere from, say, $8,000 USD up to $20,000 USD per child per year.
Wow. That's a serious commitment.
It's the price of a Western-style education in a tropical setting.
And is the international school enough to keep their heritage strong?
Often not, in the parents' view. Many feel it's necessary to also send their kids to weekend Russian schools or cultural clubs.
To keep the language going.
Exactly. To maintain their mother tongue and cultural connections, especially if returning home becomes less likely over time.
Okay, let's talk work. We know remote work is common, IT, marketing, online stuff, because it avoids local legal complexities.
Right. That's the simplest path.
But what about setting up a local business?
Yeah.
Starting fresh there.
That's where things get really complicated, very tricky.
Why?
Most types of businesses require you to have a Thai majority shareholder, or you face really complex registration, licensing hoops to jump through.
Sounds risky.
It can be.
Yeah.
You hear stories, partnerships that fail, ventures that don't work out. You absolutely need solid, reliable local advice, the kind agencies like Ocean Worldwide provide if you're going down that road. It's not something to attempt lightly.
And underlying all of this, for every expat really, but maybe especially this group, given the recent influx, is visa anxiety.
Yeah, yes, the constant low-level stressor. Thai immigration laws can feel, well, confusing, and they seem to change pretty often.
What are the main issues?
Well, you have the standard visa types, tourist, business, education, retirement. But the old way of doing things, relying on visa runs to nearby countries every month or two, that's getting much harder.
They're cracking down.
They're scrutinizing it much more. The system is pushing people towards more stable, long-term visas, but those often have higher costs or stricter requirements, like the retirement visa needing significant funds in a Thai bank.
And mistakes are costly.
Very. Overstays, incorrect paperwork. It can lead to big fines or even getting blacklisted from the country. So staying legal requires constant attention. You have to be proactive.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. The controversies, the friction this rapid growth has caused. The media spotlight hasn't always been positive, has it?
No, definitely not. Media reports often focus on the negative angles, the sheer volume of property buying, visa issues, sometimes rumors or isolated incidents of crime get amplified. This leads to easy, often unfair stereotypes.
Like the whole mafia label you sometimes hear?
Exactly, which paints a very skewed picture, but that narrative has power. It creates real pressure.
How does that play out on the ground? With authorities, for instance.
It's interesting. Law enforcement often struggles with the language barrier, too. And many Russians report feeling like they're watched more closely, subject to random checks for visas or work permits.
Because of the regulations?
Partly because the regulations on work and business are strict, and partly perhaps because of that heightened scrutiny. There's a definite feeling among some of being unfairly targeted.
And this tension exists within the broader expat community too, right? You mentioned a kind of blame game.
Yeah, it's a strange dynamic. Sometimes you see established Western expats blaming the newer Russian arrivals for driving up prices.
Especially rent and maybe groceries.
Exactly. But the irony is massive. That Russian family who arrived a year ago, maybe on a fixed remote income, they're experiencing the exact same sticker shock.
They're struggling with the same rising costs.
Precisely. They might even be downsizing or moving to cheaper areas for the very same reasons as everyone else. So the tension seems based more on visibility and perceived wealth rather than the reality for the majority.
So if we try to filter out the media noise and the expat grumbling, what's the actual day-to-day acceptance like?
It's genuinely mixed. You do hear concerns from some Thais about the pace of change, maybe feeling the island's losing some of its unique character, and long-term Western expats can get nostalgic for the old Phuket.
But from the Russian perspective.
From their side, informal community polls suggest a majority, maybe around 55%, feel generally accepted. So while there's economic friction and some cultural tension, daily interactions seem often to be respectful if there's mutual effort.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. We synthesize everything we've discussed. What's the core picture of life for Russians in Phuket today?
I think the final synthesis points to this constant, necessary balancing act. That's the defining feature.
Balancing what exactly?
Balancing the safety and real comfort they find within their own growing, well-supported community
Against
the huge economic impact they're having, the investment they represent, and also the constant pressure to adapt, to be patient in this very rapidly changing environment. It's a high-wire act, really.
And the source material, Ocean Worldwide, really emphasizes that the driver for much of this migration is the uncertainty back home in Russia. That makes their future intentions really critical for Phuket, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that leads us to the big, provocative closing question, doesn't it?
Which is?
If things change significantly back in Russia, geopolitically, economically, what happens then? Will that large group who are, just getting by, struggling with the costs, will they decide to return home? Or will the really wealthy investors, the ones putting down roots with 40, 80 million bat villas, will they decide they're staying long-term, embedding themselves even deeper into Phuket's economy and identity?
What does that mean for the island's future as this top-tier luxury destination? That's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. The answer will shape Phuket for decades.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you, our listener, a much clearer picture of this complex and fast-evolving situation.
A lot to think about.
Definitely. And remember, these crucial insights came directly from the experts on the ground, Ocean Worldwide. They've been navigating this market, helping buyers and investors since 2004.
Their experience is invaluable.
It really is. If you want to learn more from their perspective, you can explore their insights further at oceanwwp.com. That's oceanwwp.com.